What's up, retirees? This is Art Johnson, helping you navigate your unretired life. And my last video talked about the risks of AI and how to mitigate that and all that. And one of the things that I looked at is some of the positive outcomes. And I'm going to go share that with you. I'm developing a course to help you navigate your unretired life based on understanding where the marketplace is going. And I gave a prompt to a application called Notebook LM, which is part of my pro account in Gemini. And it basically gave me, looked at, this research assistant went across 64 different sources, really great articles, and plowed through them, and then gave me a really powerful report that is in LM. I'm going to be able to share this with people, enrollees in my course. But then I said that I looked at there's a tool set within called Studio, which is a subset of this, that said, would you like a slide deck based on going through the report? And I'm going to go ahead and share that deck with you. It took a while for it to crunch this, but the graphics, the formatting, it was all done through this amazing application here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share this because I think it will I think it's very impressive. And of course, it has to be checked out and all that, but the sources are really relevant and they're really, really good. And I'll be able to share each one of those with my students. Plus, have a research assistant they call a gem, which can then help people navigate some of these articles and all that. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, so the slide show that Notebook LM created for me is called Architecting the $8 trillion longevity economy. Wow. And it says that traditional definition of retirement is structurally obsolete, driven by an expanding health span and shifting economic realities. The modern transition is characterized by unretirement, a fluid multi-stage return to the labor force. And this is a blueprint for capitalizing on the defining market shift of the 2020s. So here we are in 2026 with this amazing slide deck here that got created as an outcome of me conversing with Gemini AI. And it's talking about the longevity uh, creation. There's a building here, so there's a direction here from traditional retirement to health span extension, an economic shift, and economic and multi-stage returns, and the longevity economy, which is the outcome, the value creation in gold. I love it. Don't you love it? So I'm going to go ahead and just go through that and look at these graphics, and I think the graphics are pretty powerful. So there's a permanent shift in global demographics. By 2032, adults age 65 and older will outnumber individuals under 18 for the first time in U.S. history. This inversion is reshaping labor markets, consumer spending, and public policy. Older workers are not just participating in the economy, they are driving it. So we really look at these other this whole slope here of the architectural elevation timeline. It showed the architect, that building there, but we're going to talk about that building too virtually. But there is 2.1 billion projected global population over age 64 by 2050. 100% increase, 117% growth increase in the workforce age 65 and over for the last 20 years. 93%, 90% share proportion of the total U.S. workforce growth basically is driven by older workers over the past 25 years. Wow. And it's a $7,300 average travel spend by 60 to 69-year-old in 2023, outpacing the 18 to 43-year-olds by 2030. This is the rich, this is the rich side of retirees. This is travel spend. They're going on ships. They're going on, you watch the commercials of this, of these seniors going on these trips. So this is a permanent shift in global demographics. And so what's going on is the longevity equation is driving the modern wealth span. Whoa. The Milken Institute identifies three interlocking variables that define the new longevity economy: extending biological health without corresponding financial resilience creates a deficit. Technology acts as the exponential multiplier that enables older adults to maintain both. So this is where the technology piece is. I'm lucky because since 1997, I've been involved with technology and been helped by it. And I'm turning around to turn around and help other people navigate their own retired life with these new technology tools. So we look at health span, the period of life spent in good functional growth, currently trailing lifespan by approximately 10 years. I just turned 80. I'm a little bit beyond the average here. I may go longer, but I'm having a joyous time for every remaining moment on the earth plane here. Financial security and the mitigation of the longevity gap is outliving one's money. That's the wealth span. So we got, on the one hand, we have extended life, but we have less money here. However, the equalizer here is technology. The exponential multiplier, variables, AI statistics, what they call fine tech, that bridges the gap between H and Y. That's a real fancy diagram here. But looking at these pillars, these three pillars of retirement are very important here. And I just happen to be at the very epicenter of it by doing this stuff. So it's pretty amazing. So we're mapping the unretirement marketplace through human motivation. So this is great. This is kind of like looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs here in 3D as a building. Very interesting as an enterprise here. And there is an economic push, which is growing up here, and a psychological pull. And then, boy, I've really been experiencing that. My psychological pull is my call to serve. And that's deep from within. I'm going to ask all my students, what's calling you at this moment in your life to do something really good? And so it starts out with one of the things is, you're spending too much money. So there's all kinds of ways to cut back. Cut back on all this stuff. You don't need all this. This they call this decumulation. So getting rid of some of all the material goods here that you need, and then maybe scaling back. And also some of the people enjoy annuities for safety. These annuities are good ways that they're kind of more stable growth. And then there's healthcare, which is a push. Like, what do we do? How if I'm aging How do I do that safely? I'm not the same. The old boy is not the same as he was young. What can this guy do? This with also within the framework, this IRMA planning is important because if you make so much more money here, then the government takes more money for away from you. So there's that particular IRMA planning. So how do you plan for that? And then the biggie is belonging. And that's where the transition can happen with age inclusive co-working and in real estate. So there could be cohabitation here. If one of your partners passes, for instance, rather than leave your place, if you still got a mortgage, you could rent the room. And or you can, do kinds of things that are even design new architecture that where you hope to have cohabitation. And then there's this pull, this level of esteem, the knowledge economy and expert networks. I'm including myself in that. I have a certain amount of expertise, although I'm a lifelong learner. I'm still learning. I'm really a newbie to this AI here, but there's a drive within me that says, wait a minute, I think I'm worth more than this. I have esteem here. I'm part of a growing knowledge economy and I need to join expert networks and aggregate more people to do that. And then you reach level 5, which is the Encore Career and mentorship technology here. So this is a really powerful graphic here of climbing this pyramid here in 3D. And so he talks about level 1. It goes right down to the bottom here, the physiological necessity and the decumulation crisis. For many, unretirement is an immediate response to the rising cost of living and the evaporation of budget margins. The financial services industry must pivot from passive accumulation models to agile real-time decumulation tools. And so you kind of look at this 20% of Americans age 65 plus who rely on Social Security for over 75% of their total income. That's not enough. 48% of share of unretirees who cite making money as their primary motivation because they can't make the ends meet. And $164,000 is the median retirement savings for adult. That's an average for adults age 65 plus to 74 plus, which is inadequate for a 20 plus year horizon. Usually people look at retirement at around that 65 years. So they say 85 years, another 20 years or more. And if you have $164,000, that's just the margin here. You got to make some more money here. And so the market opportunity, look at this process diagram, really fun, is fintech tools dynamically manage withdrawals, adjust to market dips, and model the 30-year post-retirement horizon. And the decumulation. We got too much material goods, so we don't need 3 and 4 cars, for instance. So we can use some public transit. We can shop better. We can manage our resources and our health better because we're eating too much beef, too much pork, and all of this. But this is really a nice graphic here. I think the machine I'm going to building it looks a lot more human than this one, but this is really fun. So level 2 has to do with mitigating risk through healthcare and guaranteed cash flow. Once basic survival is secured, the priority shifts to protecting against volatility. Unretirees face a complex web of tax and healthcare penalties when earning active income, driving a surge in demand for surprise prevention planning and guaranteed income products. Wow. So there are a lot of financial planners that have gone into these reports here that really help you kind of understand this. The hazards, the IRMA trap is earning above $106,000 single triggers Medicare Part B surcharges of 74 plus a month monthly, and work income actively threatens safe benefits. So you got to figure out how to do that. Market volatility, behavioral risk permanently undermines portfolio longevity during downturns. That's a stock portfolio for those people who own stock. A lot of people think they're safe, but then when you look at the fine print, it says, look, if investing in securities involves risk. So there's kind of a hazard there. So what is needed is to build a safety infrastructure. The Social Security lever, delaying Social Security by age 70 by working 2 extra years, yields a 54% increase in the monthly payout. Wow. And there's annuity demand. 49% of investors age 50 plus feel a heightened need for annuities to secure a baseline of essential monthly costs. There are other ways to do this, but and annuities, if you have the money to put into an annuity, that's a good thing because they're a little bit more stable. And then level 3 is combining the isolation epidemic through the third place. Now, the third place is, what is that? That's kind of a mental concept here. You look at, it looks like a bird's eye view of a physical world structure with desks and places here. Leaving the workplace often triggers a profound loss of social architecture, with 41% of retirees giving their social lives a C grade or below. Age-inclusive co-working spaces are emerging as the new community anchors for hybrid unretirees. There's a lot of wording here. But one of the things that I'm going to talk about in the way I do it, I do a lot of my work over Zoom. I'm building a virtual enterprise, or at least the hybrid enterprise, where we have virtual architecture. We meet inside of that, and it's big reach and it's learning rich and costs less money. But we can also meet at community centers that, in the physical world, go have coffee and do some things our feet are firmly on the ground at the same time that we're online. So that's the hybrid thing. And so this little fine print here talks about zoning and hospitality, uh, and biophilic design. So if you look at some of the good things, like say some of the companies in some of the countries in Europe, Norway and Sweden, they have some really innovative ways in the physical world to have mixed generation housing that fosters all kind of relationships, and they built a kind of a social structure that kind of supports that. So this is a really great way to architect a new living space or a new social space that I'm working on. And when I talk about my applications that I'm using, this can really help do that. So how are we're going to move to level 4, monetizing institutional memory in the knowledge economy. I love this graphic. At the esteem level, unretirees seek respect, status, and recognition. They transition from holding a corporate role to operating as an independent brand. Expert networks of executive branding agencies are the primary conduits for this value extraction. Whoa! And so one of the currency of this expertise involves high impact micro mentoring. Private equity and enterprise firms pay premium hourly rates for 30-minute consultation to navigate regulatory hazards and assess emerging technologies. Wow. So I just got certified using this Google AI. Imagine this could add value. Some could say, look, we gotta try to shift. We're all being impacted by AI. Can you help us from what you know from your head, from your heart? So that talks about using durable human skills. We call that the currency of expertise, critical thinking, political savvy, and domain context traits that generative AI cannot replicate. So there is something that it can't do. This is kind of where we are. So we need a human being with this. And this is really, and we can help you with your executive branding, the currency of expertise, services like Oh My Brand equip unretirees with digital thought leadership profiles to bypass traditional age bias, age discrimination. This is really helping us because it's really aware of this. Age discrimination is something. But say we created a virtual enterprise where we hire ourselves. Think about that. So that's on my mind. So look at the knowledge capital matrix, mapping the expert network landscape as demand for actionable B2B intelligence surges. The expert network industry has fragmented into distinct operational models. Choosing the right partner depends entirely on the balance of speed, scale, and transcript access. So these are the ones that are covered in these articles here. These are different, these are different networks that you can join: GLG, Third Bridge, InfoQuest, Alpha Sites, and they all have advantages and limitations here. So this is institutional scale, the advantage here. You have 900,000 in a database, and there's strict compliance here. But there's sometimes the limitation is slower turnaround for custom requests. This is based on people's experience, I guess. Third Bridge, best in class analyst led transcript library, higher cost structure, however. InfoQuest is AI assisted custom sourcing for niche GCC markets, 2 hour short list, no transcript archive, live call only. It's a limitation. So alpha sites, rapid expert matching, and bespoke project management, lighter on archival content, however. New next, AI verified B2B quantitative surveys, smaller pool for one-on-one qualitative consultations. So this is just looking at all applying to those articles. Now, one of the things that I look at where you look at a challenge, if I went through every one of those and say, well, let me just get the experience of that, then it can inform what we do. We can actually aggregate people in a different kind of way and provide, take the challenges, the limitations as an opportunity to do better and provide a better value than some of these, or work with some of the ones themselves. We need to continue to learn about to see how they do it. So level 5 is the Encore Career. That's at the top of that architecture. At the apex of the hierarchy, unretirement transcends financial or social need. It becomes a vehicle for self-actualization. The Encore Career combines continued income with social impact, primarily driven by mentorship and intergenerational knowledge transfer. Wow, I love it. So you're going to profit with principle. You're launching a purpose-driven venture or transitioning into education and healthcare. That's kind of a natural. New World Communications provides the mission critical learning a new world needs. And we're developing that. We're using these tools. And so we intend to bridge the generational gap, transferring decades of domain context to younger digital natives to stabilize organizational succession. one of the problems is they don't have the expertise in some of these new companies, and they're suffering really deeply here. So we can be agents for action, framing older workers not as victims of aging, but as active social constructors thriving on 100-year life. Wow. So let's look at that. So the the corporate value proposition of age inclusive infrastructure. The silver tsunami, that's us, so many of us, is a strategic labor advantage, not a disadvantage. Employers who actively integrate the unretiring workforce secure a massive competitive edge in dependability and institutional stability. And this is really important because there's a big turnover, big brain drain that gets mitigated here. Younger people, they don't stay very long, and it's a big cost. And so there's a $2.5 trillion economic gain by leveraging this. Now there are organizations that have really started to help companies become age friendly here, what they call the CAFE certification. This is the certification age friendly employer program that signals operational excellence. 89% of candidates prefer CAFE certified companies. I've found this company. There's a nonprofit that does this certification. And so there are articles about that. And their retention economics. Here's the return on investment of experienced labor. Okay. Older workers exhibit an 87.1% likelihood of staying in their roles, drastically reducing the hidden cost of turnover. If you go to my website, you'll see my CEO Dave complaining about why new hires are leaving. And they're not, they're they're too mobile here. They're just leaving a lot. So there's a macro impact here. Fully integrating experienced labor has the potential to drive a 6.75% increase in gross domestic product, unlocking 2.5 trillion in national economic gain. Whoa. So if we kind of look at those, the wisdom transfer matrix, enterprise mentorship software, scaling the Encore career within a corporation requires purpose-built software. Manual spreadsheet matching fails to capture the complexity of multi-generational skill transfer. So this article in here, these are a number of companies that provide these kind of services that are worth investigating here. 10,000 Coffees focuses on end-to-end pathways, smart matching via HRIS pathways, dashboard tracking, mobility, and retention. Mentor IQ, highly configurable matching algorithms, robust audio management, ERG, community integration. Cronus, proprietary matching IQ, 10-minute purpose assessment for motivational matchment, guided low prep conversations. Interesting. So together on Absorb, blending formal LMS training with peer-driven mentorship, AI suggested discussion topics. I looked at Absorb here, and they cater to a kind of small to medium-sized business. And this Cooper is upskilling content integration, versatile group experiences, circles, cohorts, and self-matching capabilities. So these are innovative companies that have found they're working in this longevity marketplace that are worth checking out. So we're activating the multi-generational workforce via what we call reverse mentoring. The most effective knowledge transfer is bidirectional, meaning that the young people, mentor older folks, and the older folks mentor younger people. And there's a kind of a loop going around here that improves digital adoption among older workers and accelerates leadership readiness for Gen Z. So the Gen Z mentor provides digital fluency, AI tool adoption, agile experimentation, and contemporary cultural expectations. I love this wording. And the unretiring mentor provides domain context, political and strategic savvy, emotional regulation, and industry network access. Wow, that's me. And that can be you too as you study how to navigate this. And their deployment models where they're executive digital pods, 6 month cycles, pairing high potential Gen Z with senior leadership. Their innovation pods that are flattened across age teams, solving specific business bottlenecks. Oh, wow. And there's ERG mentoring circles, safe spaces for discussing intersectional workplace realities. And so I've been studying some of those that are like there's a company and nonprofit called Cogenerate that is doing a lot of that work. They used to be Encore.org, and they've migrated into this intergenerational approach. So the silver tech frontier is based on engineering a 100-year workspan. The unretirement marketplace is underpinned by 8.5 billion in annual longevity investments. The object is no longer merely aesthetic anti-aging, but rigorous health span extension, allowing unretirees to maintain peak cognitive and physical output. So I'm kind of experiencing some of this whole body MRIs and ventilation clocks, monitoring internal age to preemptively manage health risks, wearable biomarkers, okay, next generation metabolic monitoring for health that looks like this Aura ring and some of the glucose monitoring and heart monitoring can give you kind of these new devices. They are wearable biomarkers that you can kind of see where you are and pace yourself. And there's cognitive enhancement, generative AI assisting with memory retention and workflow optimization for older knowledge workers. So this is a whole new category of things that preserve this, extend this longevity. That's just longevity thing here, extended here. And we are living longer, and our minds are getting fresh. I just love meeting some people who are just doing some amazing work. We're going to be doing some work with front runners who are doing some amazing work in all areas of this whole hierarchy, particularly in climate action. That's really good for the whole planet. So there's a strategic imperative. Age strategy is a growth strategy. So here are the key strategic takeaways. Transition wealth products from passive accumulation to dynamic decumulation. Redesign workspaces to serve as age-inclusive community anchors. Wow. Deploy structured software to capture and transfer institutional wisdom. So the bottom line has to do with capitalizing on the silver opportunity, requiring treating older adults as the engine of the modern economy, not its anchor, but its engine. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this share. I hope that you've enjoyed this experience with me as I going through this slideshow and trying to explain it in words that more people can understand. But I think Notebook LM did a pretty good darn job of going through 64 different articles, and they have reference points when you can go through this. In my class, I can also, I'm developing a gym, what they call a virtual teaching assistant. If you want to do some of your research on some of those articles and go in more depth, then that entity, I won't call it person, but that entity is going to help you with your research. And we're going to have a ball doing this. This is going to be a lot of joy. I'm going to share a lot of things that I've learned and try to break it down so it's just manageable and doable. And I'm just the minimum technology that we're going to be using is having a laptop, doing some calls here, and I'll be doing a lot of the videos over YouTube, and using this new and fantastic Google Classroom with this AI assistance is going to be a real joy. So thank you so much. If you need to learn more, you can text or call me at 206-920-8067. You can email me at support@newworldcom.com. You can visit us at newworldcom.com. And let's talk. Let's schedule a time. What's on your mind? How are you navigating your unretired life? Does any of this make any sense to you? If it doesn't, then tell me what doesn't make sense, or if the wording is different and we need to change it, we're going to do that. But the more diversity of ideas, of people, of genders, of people from all over the planet can be a part of this, the better it's going to be for not only ourselves, but for the entire planet. So we are it, and we are a really important part of a new developing economy with a lot of clout. So this is really good. So thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you.